When I bought my home in Maine, I remember feeling a great sense of pride and accomplishment as a single woman. The house is a large cape with a mudroom and attached two-car garage. It is a handsome house with great curb appeal that made me smile every time I turned into the driveway. Yet within the first 6 months, I remember asking myself, is that all there is? You know, I knew that was going to get a chuckle, just based on our collective age. I had just achieved the great American dream at 45. Now what? After the first year, a small voice often whispered to me on the way home, "Don't get used to it." Within the 3rd year after the purchase of my home, I had a spiritual awakening, followed by a period of discernment. And by the 5th year, I uprooted my life to answer my call to ministry. I left my beloved home, family, lifelong friends, the state of my birth, and my beloved ocean mother, called Casco Bay. I put 85% of my household belongings in storage and moved into a studio apartment on campus. Upon graduation, I moved into a large single room in an old Victorian, fully furnished house owned by a retired colleague who preferred to live on campus. I was the last of 7 interns who lived in the house before the school closed its campus and merged with Yale. The owner moved back into the house and within a few years entered a care facility. The house was emptied, and I stayed on as a tenant and property manager. During this time, I served several small congregations on a part-time basis and continued to care for my property in Maine, now occupied by tenants. The trunk of my car had become a toolbox on wheels that traveled to and from Maine as needed. It was an odd existence, unlike any other I had ever had before. In fact, the sexton in one of the churches I served came up to me before worship to ask if I had a cable staple for a minor repair. I went out to my car and came back with the cable staple and the staple gun. There are only 2 places where I felt at home during all this time: plying the ocean on Casco Bay and lying on the lawn in my backyard of my house, looking up at the sky and trees. Otherwise, I placed my trust, sought refuge, and maintained my stability through my meditation practice, a form of communion with my true essence. Home, if you will. With the benefit of full-time ministry, I decided to empty my storage unit this spring and fully occupy the 4-bedroom house in Northborough. Being reunited with my own furniture was such a delight. Laying down on my couch was like resting in the arms of my beloved. May nothing ever get between me and my couch. It is my refuge from the world. Unpacking all the boxes was like opening a time capsule to who I was 20 years ago. Sorting through my possessions at 67, I found myself asking different questions. What do I want to pass on to the next generation once I'm gone? And does this item express who I am today? After donating 2 carloads to Savers and purchasing some gently used furniture on Facebook Marketplace, I now have a formal living room, family room, dining room, home office, separate bedroom, and 2 guest rooms. a house of plenty, which I hope will be filled with people someday. Yet the kitchen floor, when I came back from Ferry Beach, the kitchen floor was still scattered with my kayak equipment and my camper gear. How could I possibly not have enough storage in a 4-bedroom house for my recreational gear? And that's when it dawned on me. My tools needed a home of their own here in Massachusetts. So I ordered and assembled a tall metal tool cabinet, put it in the laundry room, and loaded it with my tools. And suddenly, there was room for everything in the house, and I could see the kitchen floor. The shift in energy was immediate. Everything had a place of its own. My tools were easily accessible, and I could begin to set down roots. Now, when I pull into the driveway, I no longer have a sense of resentment. I have a sense of pride, and a smile comes across my face. Many ministers live an itinerant life. They move from state to state without a second thought. I, on the other hand, had been waiting to exhale since the day I left Maine. Longing for home can be for a physical place or a spiritual space. As Starhawk reminds us, we are all longing to go home, to some place we have never been, a hope, a place half remembered and half envisioned, we only catch glimpses of from time to time. I felt this longing when I left the Catholic Church as a young adult. My meditation practice was precious to me, but it was and continues to be a solitary practice. I longed to be in community, somehow knowing what Starhawk articulates so beautifully. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak passionately without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open up to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing. A circle of friends. Some place where we can be free. A place called home. When I first entered the sanctuary at the Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church of Portland, Maine, I had a visceral experience of coming home as I walked down the center aisle and chose my seat. Yet I knew nothing about Unitarian Universalism. It was just a feeling in the room, something we French call a certain je ne sais quoi, that assured me this was a safe and loving space to explore life's meaning. During coffee hour, I gathered information from the posters outside the RE classrooms that affirmed what I already believed to be true and welcomed me in body, mind, and spirit. This was not something I had ever experienced before, especially in a church. A church home is not unlike our own homes. It is a place of welcome, that reflects who we are, how we choose to interact with each other, and what we value most. Cricket Potter calls church a home for our souls and our dreams when she writes, "Something within each of us cries out for belonging. We hunger to know and be known, to feel at home with others, to sink in the deep and abiding embrace of community. We want to feel the strength of a mooring that connects us to something so much greater than what we alone can find. A stronger hope, a more enduring faith, a home for our souls and our dreams." So I ask you, if this is our collective house, our spiritual home, how do we welcome our guests on Sunday morning? Do we sit beside them during the service? Do we show them how to use the hymnal when it's time to sing? Do we invite them downstairs for coffee? Or give them a tour of our building? Do we stand or sit by them as we introduce them to other people? How is welcoming a guest in a house of worship different from welcoming a guest in our home? How do we view coffee hour? Is it a pleasant, informal time to conduct church business and connect with friends? What would it feel like to defer church business to a phone call later in the day so we can give our guest our undivided attention? How do we encourage our guests to engage more deeply in the life of the congregation outside of Sunday mornings? Do we invite them to attend a church event with us? These are the questions we'll be asking ourselves this Thursday on Zoom. And it's part of our membership brainstorming session. And I hope many of you will be able to join us as we explore the concept of radical hospitality in our church home. In her poem, A Blessing Called Sanctuary, Jan Richardson invites us to remember our own first homecoming. You hardly knew how hungry you were to be gathered in, to receive a radical welcome, to bring your whole self. Nothing of you foreign or strange, nothing of your life to leave behind or carry in silence or in shame. You began to breathe again. You learned to sing. But the deal with this blessing is it will not leave you alone. It will ask you to leave and become the sanctuary you have found for others. So whether your home is somewhere over the rainbow, on the ocean, with the earth that sustains us, a house with great curb appeal, a place for our tools, a spiritual practice, or beloved community, home is the loom of love that weaves together the tapestry of our lives. Home is a refuge from the world, a sanctuary for healing, and the promise of inclusion. May it be so.